Hello and welcome to another episode of The Modern Nerd. I am Sir Slice,
I'm merchandise.
And I'm GJC.
and we are, as always, massive nerds. So today, obviously, we're going to be talking about Ahsoka Episode 4, as by the title of this episode. Spoilers. Yeah, I always should be saying that because we do spoil the shit out of these shows and movies and everything we do. So if that's not apparent by now, spoilers. This is a spoiler cast. Before I do, as usual, I want to go ahead and give my co-hosts here a good old thumbs up. Thank you very much for doing this with me. And if you're following along at home and watching any of these things, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Feel free to sound off in some comments, follow the socials, and I will be more than happy to respond to any messages I get. Also, if this is your first time watching, go ahead and make sure you give that like and subscribe button a little clickety click, and we'll go ahead and add you to our super cool followers. So, today, Ahsoka Episode 4. I could start in so many places. Overall, I'm gonna go with, yeah, I enjoyed this episode. I thought it was pretty good. It's just it was good. Just something about it to me was just a little bit off. And we'll probably break down some of these parts of our WTF moments. But my biggest thing for this episode was just I liked the action in it. My wife did not, which I thought was interesting. But I did. I thought it was very nice. And then I just don't know why Ahsoka didn't use her two lightsabers. That's my biggest question. Is like,
Oh, we're gonna just jump into that.
Yeah, we're jumping
Okay.
into that. That's my number
I
one. Because
wanted to
guess,
talk
like,
about lightsabers because I
with,
feel
like,
like it's really interesting.
with Merrick, it was fairly like, yeah, she won. Cool. Like, she didn't seem threatened by him at all. Great. One lightsaber. Disrespectful, and I love it. You know what I mean? Like, you're not worth my other saber. But like, you go up against Balin Skull, and like, he's a pretty formidable foe, and like, she's heard of him, and she even had, when she mentioned him at one point and heard the name, she kind of said it with a little bit of reverence, a little bit of respect in her name. Put some respect on it. And so she, like, why wouldn't she take out that second saber? Like, you've got the tools. You want to win. This is you clearly stated the importance and weight of this moment to make sure you get this map. Fucking make sure, take every chance, every option you have to win this battle. And instead, she's all just like, I'm samurai, and like, that's cool, but like, the fuck, man, like, come on.
I have an
on.
explanation for that.
I have my input as well. You go
Yeah,
ahead,
go.
George. Okay.
So polite today.
I think that I don't know if it was a direct influence, but if you play the game Jedi Fallen Order, you know that your character fares far better when he has his single lightsaber out when going one-on-one with his opponents. When engaging multiple opponents, you use your dual lightsaber, and that you have more benefits that way. Your damage for a single target, I think, is either increased, or your countering is easier. That's something that I thought of and I actually loved. And I don't know, that maybe is that's made me think, like, how often have we really seen Ahsoka engage someone one-on-one before? Because it seems like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this. If she's had multiple opponents in the past, she's always has those out. But if she's had a single opponent, has she had both her lightsabers out before? I don't know. Regardless, I liked it, and I think it was good for at least, like, I don't know, some sort of continuity.
I think, like, on a casual, like, surface level viewing, I totally understand where Tim's coming from. I think a lot of things went into the influence. Like, that these people are, especially from like stunt people to director to Dave Filoni to George Lucas to all these people who have been put on the show, fight scenes are dissected by them and created just as much as a scene where there's a lot of dialogue and a lot of deep scenes. So a lot of input goes into it. A lot of research goes into it. She jumped through at least 5 different styles of Jedi's like lightsaber. Like there's like 8 or like something like that, different forms of lightsaber use. She jumped through like 3 or 4 of them casually without a problem. And she's so well versed in training that she's comfortable using 1 or 2. That's how good she is. Like, but typically speaking, in Star Wars history, when two people face off one on one with a lightsaber or lightsaber swords, is usually just one lightsaber. That's just the tradition. One of the
Yeah.
reasons for this, fighting wise, leverage. He is so much stronger than she is. She needs to use both her hands to hold a sword to block and to fend him off. His sword is almost like 25% to a half longer than her blades. If you notice, he uses a long sword, like because of his size. The poses that he does are not the same type of moves that someone as agile in the technique that's like most Jedi uses. He uses long striking swords. Funny enough, if you've ever watched this another movie that Qui-Gon Jinn is and Liam Neeson, called Kingdom of Heaven, they even talk about it. It's the high guard. It's like the guard of the Falcon. It's the way you hold a sword. It's used for people who are like medieval knights, and they hold their swords that type of technique with a long broadsword. So in order for her to get the right leverage against someone of that size, of that long of a blade, she cannot not use both her hands. She has to use both hands on the sword and the saber to properly defend against that. That's why she only uses one.
If you remember that in episode 1, Darth Maul, when he first engages with Qui-Gon Jinn one-on-one, just uses the one blade.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only when he's facing the two of them that he busts out the second one.
It's been like that with Ahsoka too, is that she usually only uses, she typically, if you see her and she's fighting someone one-on-one, a lot of times when she fought Ventress, who's like a character in the Clone Wars, she used the one blade, but she used remember when she first engaged Marok, she used the underhanded, like almost like a dagger like attack initially. That is what she typically does one-on-one with another person. It isn't until she means business she turns into a real actual pose of like the typical Jedi technique, which is more similar to what Anakin does. You know what I'm saying? But when she engages, her like basic form that she goes back to initially on a one-on-one battle is always one sword with the blade going down. That's always like her standards, like first set. Once she gauges her opponent, she changes to mimic and to like counter the style of her opponent. That's how good she is, because she's trained by Anakin. She's trained by Anakin.
She switched heavy into like a samurai influence, and I think her hilt is very designed for that. Like you can tell because it's a longer one with the curve, so it'll give you that ability to kind of get that slice that the samurai have with that a bit of power and precision. But I don't know, anytime I see, like a big heavy versus someone who's not of the same stature, I just always want to dive into like agility, and that second saber would give you that agile ability to like, glancing blow and then counterattack with a quick little jab. You know what I mean? Like you can't just like it just would make sense, to go big, slow, clumbering person versus someone that has like really quick short bursts.
Tim is a Taki and Italian player.
Yeah, those were my jam.
He's a Taki Italian player, and there's some people who are Mitsurugi, and there's some people who are like Ashtaroth, like there's people who play different styles when it comes to weapon techniques, and Tim, I think, is of the mind of speed and agility and multiple blades.
I play to what my strengths would be in person, in real life. I'm not a big guy. I'm not Astaroth. I'm not going to be wielding an axe. I don't have that kind of ability. So I'm, anytime I see someone with a duel,
those are definitely.
I want to see it utilized. I don't know. I just really liked it.
Points,
it's fine. It's not like anything that took away. I just was like, you could have just, while you're blocking, just pull out your other one and stab him. Like, come on, do the old.
I feel he was very strong.
Yeah, no, he was super powerful.
He was a powerhouse, right? Like.
I'm fine with her losing that battle. Like it made sense for the story to kind of push it forward and all that stuff. And that kind of drives me into another one, which you guys have some stuff about as well, at least Dan, I think. But for me, it was more of a what the fuck kind of moment. And it ended up being when Sabine hands over the thing, the map. And like, it was predictable, which is another one of my points. Most of this episode to me was predictable. I was like, oh, she's going to like obviously give that over, because the whole point of this episode between Ahsoka and Sabine was addressing the fact that Sabine really wants to save Ezra, and that Ahsoka is saying we need to do whatever it takes to stop Thrawn. If that means no one gets to Thrawn to save him, so be it. Then we don't save Ezra because that's a byproduct of not getting to Thrawn. So you could see that these two dualities were at play throughout the entirety of the episode. And then when given the choice, I was like, well, obviously to move the plot along, she's gonna give him the thing and go. You know what I mean? Like it just, to me, that was again another thing that's been done 1,000 times in 1,000 movies and 1,000 TV shows. And I was like, well, here goes another one, and bam, there it is. She gives it over in that like, you're right, fuck you kind of way. So yeah. And then when faced with the consequences of her actions, the short-sighted ones, when Hera shows up, Syndulla, she's like, no. And I'm like, well, this is what you get. You about to fuck up a bunch of X-wings because you let them go, basically. So that was just for me. Like I you know, that's the only thing that pulled me away towards the end. Everything else I was really enjoying. And again, it's not like I'm sitting here going, it ruined the whole episode for me. But I mean, it's just something that I saw coming, and I felt most of this was fairly predictable and formulaic for me. But I still enjoyed the episode for that most part.
I disagree. I don't think it was very predictable. I don't know. Looking back, I guess maybe a little bit, but everything had felt predictable up till this point to me, and then so I wasn't expecting anything. I was just kind of like, I thought it would have been predictable to say she would not have given up, but she did, and I thought that was the best thing to happen so far. Is like, a little bit of spice into what's been, kind of just a kind of okay show so far. Let's really mix things up a little bit, and I was glad to see it. I think it's the best thing to happen to the show so far.
I don't know. I just thought that the whole reason she was doing this was for Ezra.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally the only reason she's here is because Ezra. There's a chance for Ezra. Even Ahsoka used that as a hook to grab her in. Be like, she didn't even say we need to stop Thrawn when she showed her the map. She said there's a way to save Ezra, and that's what piqued her interest. So this entire drive for her was Ezra and almost nothing else. Yes, she wants to learn.
It's almost a little annoying. It's like, all right, we get it. Like,
yeah. And to me, that's when she was like, oh, there's an opportunity then to go to Ezra.
Yeah, makes sense.
Obviously she's gonna give in. So I don't know, but it was fine. I had no problem with it whatsoever. Any thoughts, George? Oh yeah, you have it in there too. Oh no, that was Dan. They're in a different
I thought
order,
it was, as far as predictability. That didn't bother me as far as predictability one way or another. I didn't really think much about her decision to make a prediction in the first place, but I think I'm closer maybe to Dan. I think it's pretty much, at least the best episode they've had so far, that's for sure. I'm not saying the show was bad. I enjoyed the show so far. It's a good show, but this was the best episode yet, as I can say.
I agree.
Wasn't my
I'm just
favorite.
saying it's like the best show of episode ever, but it is the best episode so far of the show.
Definitely, there's a lot of action, and it was all like critiques of whatever aside, pretty decent action. I don't really care for the multiple pauses that people just kind of seem to take in the middle of battle. They just kind of stop and stare at each other for a while. And and I get that there's to a point there's sizing your opponent up and trying to anticipate. To a point though, there were if we went back and counted all the pauses, we're getting in the dozens here.
I know, but it's a stylistic choice, for trying to mimic a samurai style.
This is the thing I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with my own my critical nature of Star Wars. I don't want to be, but I find myself just noticing things that, if I'm being really honest, probably wouldn't bother me if this wasn't Star Wars. But I'm still having trouble getting past my own Star Wars bias. Sure. And I don't know if that's, maybe I'm being critical here, probably, but it just is all right, maybe
I understand
6 total pauses. But once you get over a dozen, it's okay.
There were not a dozen pauses.
I would say there were eight at least
But
8
not
total pauses.
not in one fight.
But I mean, a lot of
that's not, no, at least, but like 3 or 4, per fight.
Yeah.
And it's like,
And it made sense to George's point earlier,
It's a
where
stylistic
Ahsoka's
issue.
using the different styles and everything. She did, even in just the fight with
I would say,
Balin, she switched her style
Yeah,
up
she
mid-fight.
switched her stance to mirror
So
his.
it's kind of
okay.
like a call and response, where she's like, getting
Okay, I would
hit.
say-
Hold on, let me finish, and then you can talk.
All
Hold on. So she's getting that call and response, and I've seen it a bunch in different movies where it's like, you're gonna go in and you're like, here's a couple of here's my exchange. How did that go? Okay, all right, let's change it up. Here's another one, and then back and forth, and like, so I saw that, and I was like, yeah, all right.
It's a
what I was
stylistic
gonna say
choice.
was, except for that fight, that when she's changing styles, that's them adapting to each other, whatever they're doing. That's cool. I like that. I'm talking just the stopping and like circling around each other and just kind of staring, which happened a decent amount as well.
Yeah.
The changing of styles, I love that, because that's like they're showing, like, they're putting effort into like styles of combat and like what counters what, and that was great. I liked that.
Yeah.
And I thought that the lightsaber action is it's a
TV show.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be what we want it to be, or at least what I want it to be. But it's still, for a TV show, it's okay.
That was pretty good. So I got last 2 points. 1 point. I had something that you were off of what you're saying, but I can't remember. But my last point that I want to talk, and then I'll let you guys kind of take away for some of them. For me, it was just a fun little thing where, like, when at the end, when spoilers, Ahsoka wakes up. She's like on like this, like, I'm gonna call it a spirit bridge when Aang is going to open his last chakra and he's walking down and he has to
Oh my god, it totally is.
It very
Chakras?
much, I immediately was like, oh, what's up, Aang? Like, nice to see you again, because Dave Filoni
Chakras?
worked on Avatar, so like, I'm like, oh, all right, there's some similarities here, and I just was like, that's super Avatar for me right now, and I really just like, yeah, anything that makes me think of, whether or not it was an actual reference or not, but makes me think of Avatar, I was like, hey, good times. So I just thought that was kind of funny, and I enjoyed it. I did like that little last scene between where you're, like, they teased Anakin. Not a huge fan of their watered down de-aging things that they're using. I feel like they've had a couple of successes in the past, but when it comes to their television shows, anytime they de-age somebody, it looks not so great. And Anakin did not look so great other than that. But I liked it. I was like, cool. I'm excited for this next episode. Like, I want to know what that's all about, and more Anakin and that confrontation. But other than that, that was my main thoughts and talking points. I'm gonna pass it over to George. What do you got? I see a couple things on there.
Just to riff off of the fighting and the action in this episode, I would say that I really enjoyed that first initial fight that they had against the assassin droids.
Yeah.
Ahsoka and Sabine are obviously very, like, experienced with working and fighting with each other. Just the choreography that they had with the two of them fighting and taking on, like, a superior number of people, it just shows they know each other so well, and they have probably been several battles together before, because all their moves essentially complemented each other. They didn't even have to, like, tell each other what they were going to do. Like, Sabine, like, that last move was Sabine pulling somebody with her, like, cord thingy, the cord whip forward, and Ahsoka already, without even hesitating, already knew what was going to happen before Sabine did it, and was ready to finish the guy off. Like, it's just every move they fought and they shot, every move, every strike was just a compliment to each other, and they worked really well together. So, just like the robot said, you guys were always stronger together. Stick together. But of course, right away, as soon as they get a chance to separate, they fucking separate. Which are like, why don't you guys finish the little chihuahua off first, and then and then go fight Balin? Whatever. Okay, I get it. Like, for plot reasons, they didn't do that. I get it. But just all right.
It still could have been cool if they stuck together. Like, I was like excited. I was like, oh, they're gonna work together. There's gonna be a cool fight scene. No. And then they separated, and I was like, yeah.
It would have been cool to see Balin take on both of them at the same time. Also, like Darth Maul style, and see how he could handle.
Or even
that.
just like a 2-on-2 battle where they switch opponents in the middle and they're fighting.
Yeah, that
and
would have
it's
been cool too.
But
Maybe
again,
we'll get that.
This is a TV show, so
Hopefully that'll come in the future. Carson Teva, dude, Captain Teva. Shout out to Carson Teva. We salute you, the only man out there in the frontier who believed that shit was going down. Okay, thank God. He had a really cool callback. He called Hera Phoenix Leader. For those of you who don't know, Star Wars Rebels, initially their cell was called, their ship was the Ghost. They were the Spectres. I think I forgot what the name of their cell was. Weren't they just Spectres? Was the name of their cell? And then eventually, when they became part of the larger rebellion, they got absorbed into a larger cell called Phoenix Squad. So when he called her Phoenix Leader, that's like a little nod to the fact that she was the squadron leader for the fighter pilots back then. So it's kind of cool.
That's a cool nod.
Yeah, it's a little cool nod to Rebels. We talked about different light systems. Oh, and also, finally, the only other thing I really want to talk about is the internet is like, I love, it's funny, like, for those of us who remember the time when the internet wasn't as prevalent as it is now, where like nerds and fans could share their theories and like nonstop. Before, you had to meet in person, obviously, to talk about these things, or maybe on the radio or whatever other type of media there was, but before the internet. But because of the internet, there is like this ecosystem of like people who just bounce off of each other's crazy schemes and conspiracy theories and ideas when it comes to Star Wars. And if you do any type of like watching, as far as this content, obviously you're watching this show right now, but if you do watch any of this type of content on YouTube or anywhere else, you'll see all these crazy theories all the time about things that happen in Star Wars. One of the ones that got really out of hand was crazy predictions for who this Marok guy was. All right, people are going as far as saying it was Kanan, it was Ezra, it's freaking what's his name? The guy from Star Wars Force Unleashed, Star Killer.
Oh my God,
Star Killer, because the actor who plays Star Killer has a voice credit in Ahsoka. The list goes on. Fucking clone of Luke Skywalker.
My favorite was that it was, because I haven't played the new one yet, but it was going to be what's his name from Fallen Jedi.
Yeah, like the list goes on. Okay, and I'm just like, Star Wars fans. Right. I understand, like, it's fun to think, and that's part of the whole experience of Star Wars, but sometimes we take the tiniest little things and we blow it up and make so much out of it, and it never pans out, and the same thing with the Mandalorian. That was the same thing. The Mandalorian, everyone's like, oh man, someone's going to be like a traitor and blah blah blah. None of that happened. Like it
happened a shitload in like WandaVision, even.
Yeah, like
Loki,
a lot of people have weird theories all the time, and I think that part of it is fun and experience, but also it's just funny to see how bad people are at predictions and like that. And turns out this Marok guy wasn't even that big of a deal. Like, he literally turned into fucking space dust. Like, I don't know
what the hell was that?
I don't know what the fuck happened.
I don't want to spoil anything. I know what it is, but I'm not gonna go.
Was he like possessed? Was he?
Yes, he's like bewitched by the Night Sisters.
Yeah, that's what it was.
He's a resurrected. He's a resurrected Inquisitor, pretty much.
Made of gas.
Yeah. Did you guys play Jedi Fallen Order and stuff like that? The other Jedi games. There's like Night Sister storylines in it where they resurrect people, right? I think it's
right.
But
they still have like. Oh, I guess we didn't see the inside of his suit. All right.
He became like a green dust.
He's like that guy
like
from
Night Sister magic. I don't know.
Hellboy, remember? Remember in the beginning, the first Hellboy, where he's like, there's like that guy, and he's fucking
Hellboy.
shit up, and
speaking of which, Night Sister magic. One last thing, fucking Sabine. Hello, that thing was hot. Like, do you not know when you put things on a hot open fire for a long ass time, it gets really, really hot, especially if it's metal? Why would you just grab it with your fucking bare hands, like a fucking moron?
Yeah, that was Ahsoka.
Not Sabine, Ahsoka. I mean. Sorry, Ahsoka. I was like, Ahsoka, why would you, like, has no one ever taught you when you put things over open fire? Happening? Like, it gets hot.
It was hot and not, like, possessed or some shit?
No,
I didn't realize that those green like things were flames. I didn't know
like
they were
a flame
flames.
or something like that it was floating over. And, like, she just, like in the metal ball, she's touched the metal ball. It's freaking metal. Like,
No, actually, George, I'm sorry. We go through all of Star Wars, and people just kind of press buttons and do things.
Yeah, I guess you're
right. We aren't supposed to ever know anything about that.
I guess you're right.
So how? I mean, I guess she's supposed to know. Maybe you're right. right about that. But like technology in Star Wars just kind of works, and we never talk about what things actually are or
It
named.
kind of
or
looked like it was an
called or
open.
do
I mean, I don't
anything.
know. Smirch, didn't it look like it was floating over an open flame?
Yeah,
I didn't.
guess.
Exactly. I guess. Like I don't.
That's what I thought it was. So I was like,
Maybe
why
she
would you
should
just
have
grab
known,
something
but
that's like
how the
on
hell
a
would
book?
we have known? Like I was like, oh, it's burning. Okay. Like
I
I
thought it was
guess.
like I
we
thought it
as
was
an
because it was
audience,
like magic. You know what I mean?
Someone
So I was
pointed.
like,
I
oh,
saw
there's
someone
like a
pointed out it was. It's very similar
curse.
to like what's it called? Like Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think, where
Well,
there's
but
that
that's
scene.
clearly flames. This is like magic. So I'm like, is it hot?
I don't
Is it
know.
cold?
Whatever.
What
we
is
as an
it? It's
audience,
Maybe I'm
burning.
hung up on it. I just was like, why did you
full.
touch that? It was hot. Like, it was like,
I don't
why'd you
know.
touch
How
that?
is- I mean, I don't know how the fuck. Like maybe they're just as confused as Star Wars technology as we are. Like I don't know how the
all
fuck
right.
shit works.
That's it.
Like,
I guess that was my
knows?
one hang up kind of about the episode. I was like, why'd you touch that
like,
shit?
I don't know. It's
You know
like-
what? Based on all of my hangups or Dan's hangups, I'll allow it. Like it's who cares? Yeah, everybody's got.
I'm not
hang up on
I'm not
something.
that upset about it. I
Like-
just thought it was funny. I was like, dude, that thing was on a fire. Like, what?
we as an audience are never gonna understand anything that really happens in technology wise, other than it works. like, like
I
it's
wanted
not
to
gonna-
talk
thing
about
happened.
the last scene, but I don't really want to go into it without diving too much into like spoilers, and then also I just rather let Dan take over from here. But
So,
if we
Dan,
do want to
what
talk
you
about the
got?
last scene, we can.
What you
I
got?
don't have much to say other than I wish they had kind of given us. I mean, I said it to these guys before we started. Why do they have orange lightsabers? And both Tim and Drew were like, "Oh, they're gray Jedi." Like I'm like, "Oh, okay." We haven't really seen one before. Like, I would like some just a throwaway line of like, "Oh, they are this kind of Jedi." Like I don't, or this kind of Sith. I don't really
So,
know. I mean, we don't know. Like as an audience, we have no idea of knowing unless we're like Star Wars nerds and like read up on this shit, which I don't want to do, and I don't think most people want to do. So
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people want to do. I don't. I think most is a big understatement. This is still a very massive following. Star Wars is
I
huge.
disagree with you wholeheartedly, Tim.
So many people like watch Star Wars and follow
Yeah,
Star
there's
Wars.
a lot of people that do, but most of the people watching this show are not on that level.
Dude, according
would
to ratings, not a
disagree.
lot of people are watching the show.
Well, maybe only the Star Wars nerds are watching this show, so I don't know. But I just, I mean, not everyone should be expected to just be like, oh, like, give me something. All I want is a line, like one throwaway line of some sort of explanation.
So
and
here's a fun thing. I didn't realize it was orange. I just assumed it was red because like he doesn't use his saber that much. And then I saw a red saber earlier, so my mind went red. I was like, whatever, it's all the same to me. Here's a fun little thing. I just kind of looked at this. Granted, this is a wiki entry, but I think this holds a little bit of weight to it. It says, according to showrunner Dave Filoni, Skull's lightsaber being orange-red instead of the traditional Sith red blade was intentional because he always felt that as a kid that Darth Vader's lightsaber seemed to fluctuate from visual effects to being a little more orange. So he wished to not make a straight-up orange lightsaber, but a double-colored lightsaber so kids who watch the show may not come up with the quick conclusion about Baylan Skoll's real allegiances. So, I mean, you kind of look at it and it's like, kind of what we were just saying is like, is he a gray Jedi? Is he a Sith? Is he not? It is orange. Some people like may not even notice. I was like, all right, that's kind of interesting.
that's so stupid. Even they don't even know, or they don't care. Like, oh, whatever.
Well, I think that they were trying to put in some mystery, being like, oh, is he good? Is he bad? And like the whole time,
they don't know yet.
Well, his allegiance, everything he said is fairly neutral. Like he wants, yes, Thrawn to take over, but he's not going to work for Thrawn. He wants it for a separate reason. Like he's talking about gaining power on his own, and the best course of action for him is the power vacuum for Thrawn. So it's like, okay, he's not a Sith. He's not an Empire a sympathist. He's not any of these things. He's a mercenary. He's on in it for his own self to seize all the power and seize the opportunity that is there. So I thought that was interesting, at least for his character motivation throughout the show, which is why I like him more because he is more.
Now I care less because they don't even fucking know or care. Like, anyway, I'm done.
Well, I just think I didn't get that from what I read, and said that his
It means
original
they
one.
haven't made a decision yet. I mean, now they're not going to have to because the actor has passed away. But
Sadly.
whatever. Sadly,
I mean,
he
but
is
he's
good. I do like him. I think he's
yeah,
great in his role, which is sad.
yeah.
But regardless,
But I think it's they've made it pretty clear that he's neutral-ish. He's not going to go bad. He's not going to go Sith. He's not going to go Jedi. He was a Jedi and he doesn't like it, but he doesn't seem to really align himself. He doesn't like. You can tell he doesn't like a lot of what
well, but then
what's her
he
name
would
is
be fully
doing.
orange then,
Well,
because that's what the
it's
gray
there to lead.
Jedi
It's there.
represents. I thought.
Well, I don't know if their color is specifically orange, but it seems that it's just kind of like trying to give you that hint, like add more to the mystery of where are his allegiances. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, cool. Like if they're adding that, that's a
Alright.
fun little detail. I thought it
Anyway,
was neat.
let's move on.
I got nothing else, man. I finished my thing.
I thought George
Um,
wanted to say something after.
you
Oh,
want to talk
NDC,
about that last episode?
or
Talk
the
about
last scene.
Aang opening up his chakras.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to spoil things, so we don't really need to talk about it.
Alright. I don't
You
know
guys will
anything
just enjoy what it is, because you guys have like, it's hard to do this without spoiling things, because you guys never watched Rebels or all the way, or you didn't watch like Clone Wars even. So it's like if I go into details about it, it will spoil those two episodes for you. But I don't know if people who are listening have watched those two shows or not, because those are obviously like the setup is. I mean, I feel like maybe you guys need to watch the next episode, and then I can talk a little bit more about it, because it's one of the things that I don't like about the things that Filoni created. Is like what we're about to dive into, which is like the origins of the Force, which I think are fucking stupid with what he came up with, but whatever, because it opens a can of worms, I think. So
yeah, that sounds like a can of worms. Just the words,
the origin and like
of
where they are
Force.
right now, which is like, I mean, I'm almost 99% certain where Ahsoka is right now, because everyone, like, it looks exactly the same as it did from the series, the cartoon, so the animated series. So I know where she is, and that is like one of the most controversial parts about Star Wars, like that Filoni has created. So when we watch the next episode,
I'm excited. I want to see how many people that pissed off. I want to learn more about it.
I wish they didn't do it. I think what they
I wish they didn't do midichlorians, but here we are. So
yeah, I wish this is not what they chose. This is the path that they decided to go, because it takes Star Wars in a kind of whatever. Who cares?
It's not like it's
like,
not going in a weird
like,
direction
whatever.
as it is. So
yeah, like it's not like it's amazing.
How many episodes are there total?
I want to say there's a lot. Actually, we're only halfway through. I think there's 12 or 10.
No, no, there's not. There's no way.
I can't seem to find a definitive answer online.
I thought there was at least 10. Or is there only 8? Oh, no, we're halfway through. Yeah, we're halfway through. So
Ahsoka will consist of 8 episodes, the first 2 of which premiered on August 22nd, scheduled to conclude
5 episodes
on October 3rd.
Yeah, we're halfway through.
We're gonna be late on our finale, because I will be at Disney World. So yeah, our finale will happen a week after it actually aired. Not that these are happening in a timely fashion, but we'll get them out.
You could always do it. You could always do it from Disney World.
No, Lord no. Definitely not. I'll do it dressed as a Jedi with the robes that I purchase at Galaxy's Edge.
That's funny.
That'll be good. I got nothing else. Depending on, I think when this goes up, this will go up soon. So stay tuned and check out our Flash review, which will be up after this one. So if you enjoyed this one, watch the Flash, because we have a lot to say about that.
I thought you were gonna put it up before.
No, I had to do other work and shit. So, but yeah, check out the Flash after you watch this and the episode, and you can listen to me go on an insane rant for once in a while, because I really go on a rant, and it's pretty chaotic. So
it was good though. It was good.
You enjoyed that one, and thank you for watching. And as always, if you've had a good time, we've been the Modern Nerd. Oh, damn it. And thank you for watching. I did that twice.